Welcome to Living Fit. It's Pam here, your host, of course. And I have a very special guest, like I always say. But today we're talking to my good friend Amy, and we're talking about all things beauty, about how she's a lifestyle influencer, about how becoming viral on Instagram is changing the trajectory of her career and what she's doing with that, and all kinds of fun things. So stay tuned to the end, like, subscribe, all the things. And thank you so much for being here. What's going on, you guys? I have my friend Amy here.
What's up?
Hey, girl. Okay, so I'm just going to really just get right into it. I'm going to introduce Amy. Amy is a friend of mine that happens to live in the Sunshine State, Florida. As you know, I'm here in Michigan, and I'm freezing. You guys aren't that warm either, though.
No, we're not. And that's why, I have 2 layers on and I'm sitting in the house.
So real quick, Amy Louise, that's how I say your middle name, right? That's your middle name. Okay. She's a Gal's Perspective on Instagram. And do you have a YouTube yet?
I don't, not yet.
Okay.
It's coming.
So you can just find her on Instagram, A Gal's Perspective. Amy and I have known each other for a really, really long time.
Over a decade.
Yes. And I would say for over a decade, we have talked about doing conversations like this, possibly a podcast or a YouTube. I met Amy through my good friend Callie, which is Amy's sister. And Amy and I just clicked right away. We have a lot in common with helping people and the love of people and fitness and nutrition and all of the super fun things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually look up to Amy a lot for like skincare, beauty care, all that kind of stuff. So if you look her up on Instagram, she is a beauty stylist, and I would add on there a lifestyle influencer.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, because she is, you guys. So if you don't mind, Amy, can you share your age? Because people need to know.
49. I just turned 49 in November. So I'm excited for 23 because I'm like, okay, this is a half a century, and I'm looking forward to what the year has in store.
Yes, and you guys just look at her. You honestly look 30.
Okay? Thank you. It is so weird because having children that are younger. Most of the people I interact with are 10 to 12 years younger than I am. And so it's, yeah.
You don't feel 49. That's what you're saying.
No, I don't. And so I just think I'm the same age as everybody else.
That's right. Me too. I'm like, I don't feel any different than 25 or 35. So I don't know what you guys are talking about. So Amy and I kind of wanted to come on here and talk about skincare. But when we were talking, as we always do, we got off on these tangents, and we kind of came up with a different subject. Again, I wanted to add in here too with Amy. She's a mom of two.
Two girls.
Two girls, and their ages are
10 and 8.
10 and 8. So you're doing the fitness thing, you're doing the beauty thing, you're doing the mom thing, you're trying to keep up with all that. So there's a lot going on. So you definitely fit into like the living fit category here.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, so we wanted to talk about skincare a little bit, but what we actually decided that we wanted to share with you all here listening or viewing is kind of how Amy got started and I guess kind of how you got started and where you're going from here. So if you want to share, so as long as I've known Amy, she's wanted to help people. She's been involved in fitness. She ran marathons when I met her. So she was a runner and she connected with me because, you know, I was lifting weights. So they kind of go hand in hand. And we had the same drive. And she started her Instagram, always wanted to help people and kind of influence people's lives through health and beauty and all of that. But something happened just recently. So you want to start there?
Okay. So, anyways, just to back up a little bit, I went through a divorce, and just through healing that trauma, I mean, that's basically what it is, a loss of, you know, some of the dreams or goals you had. So this year I just have felt much better, and I came across a video that was really funny about being single. And so I enrolled my girls. We just have the best time together, and we did a similar video on being a single woman. Where would you go to meet men? So we picked places that I enjoy going to because, right, you want to be like-minded when you're meeting somebody. Sure. And for whatever reason, it jumped on the algorithm wave and it just took off. So
your video went viral. So you had I think I looked one day, I don't know, you maybe had a couple thousand
I
followers or
had 900.
900. Yeah, well, I knew it wasn't that many. And
Yeah.
then like if you have like 100,000 followers or something of that sort almost now.
Like, not, I have 99. Yeah. No, it's crazy.
Yeah, so your video got like how many million views?
8.4. And there's like
8.4.
26,000 comments, which you can't answer all of those, but they were comments all over the board. So I started doing some videos just talking about going through a divorce and healing traumas, because that, like, doing and being in the beauty industry for so long, you have intimate conversations with people who, they've lost husbands or children, or telling you life stories, and hearing their journeys, as I kind of put this book in my head of what things they did to heal. I'm like going back to the childhood and trying to heal that kind of stuff. So that's what I did. So making the video was really a healing thing, of to kind of expose myself in a hilarious way, because I tried online dating. It wasn't for me. So I'm like, let's just have fun with this. Never thought it would take off. But the original point of A Gal's Perspective was my perspective on life, on beauty, on health, to share with people, because I am so fortunate to know someone like you who has so much education and knowledge in the fitness industry. And I share those things with people that may watch my videos, or I know
Mhm.
someone who's been in finance and I'll share the tips that he gives me. Well, my page went to helping women, really to focus now mostly on men. But healing your traumas is universal,
Sure.
because we all have them.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. So your video went now. She talked about her divorce real quick, and that's kind of where that video came from. But she was doing videos long before this. So you were sharing without really an expectation, just really kind of trusting God would put those videos in front of whoever needed them at the time. Um,
absolutely.
so you, like you said, mentioned you just kind of have fun with your kids and you kind of pull them into what you're doing. So you're not really separating that at all. And you had been making videos and kind of healing your own, your own trauma through your divorce and all of that. And you guys can visit her page for that. I'm sure you'll have lots of podcasts on those specific topics. And obviously DM her if you have any personal questions on anything like that, because she's
Which
an
I've gotten
open
a
book.
ton of. Exactly. And I think
Yep.
that's the thing, is being transparent
Hmm.
and being able to connect with people. I mean, some of the stories that I've heard, which most of them came from men, it was sad and it broke my heart, because whether you're a man or woman, you still have insecurities, and we
Sure.
need to heal what those are. And just sharing my story and healing from it, there was always two things I came back to. And those were things I wanted to encourage people, that you are enough and that you are chosen. But there are red flags that you have to be aware of. And sharing my story, I hope, encourages somebody to know their value.
Yeah, yeah. And that's kind of just like your giving heart in all of this. And that's again, that's something that attracted me to you as a friend and somebody that grew quickly into my close circle, was just your genuine, transparent heart. No matter what you were going through at the time, when you were married or when you were having kids, or when you were trying to get pregnant, like all of the things, you've always been like, okay, this is where I'm at. And that's kind of how I am. Like, this is where I'm at. This is, it's a pain to purpose. Like, if we share and we have this community and we build this community of people, men and women, we get to not only heal, but we get to share and let people know they're not alone. That's my main mission too. Like, you're not alone. Like, we're not supposed to do this by ourselves.
Absolutely. And that's the unfortunate thing, is people don't want to share. And being in the
Mhm.
beauty industry for as long as I've been in it,
Which is how many years?
uh, I started school in 92. So I just celebrated 30 years.
That's awesome.
Um, but when you're interacting with someone and you're touching them, not many people are in someone's space like that. So the stories that I've heard over the years are just heart wrenching. And people cover that up and put on that face, just like everyone talks about how Instagram's just a facade and you see all the happy stuff.
Hmm.
And I think that's why I probably didn't have a lot of consistency, is one of the things that always heard if you want to build your platform, you have to have consistency. There were just some days I could barely function, and it was everything I had to function for my girls.
Yeah.
And so at night, or I was just spent. And
Yeah.
that kind of even goes back to like my fitness journey, is I didn't have that extra energy to stay super consistent with it. So there's been highs and lows with that, but I know how beneficial it is. But
Hmm.
there were just some days mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, I was just done because
Yeah.
I needed to make sure that they were taken care of. But
Yep.
there are other people going through that, and you're not alone.
Mhm.
I don't know necessarily the right way to suggest someone to connect, but for me, I've been blessed with amazing people. I mean, I still visualize talking to you when I lived in Arizona, going for a walk and telling you what was going on in my life. Like, I've had so many amazing friends in my life, but I think that goes back to being transparent and honest. Like, I can be a jerk. I have my flaws just like everybody else, but I want to be a better version of me. And
Yeah.
the people that I have in my life, they strive to be better versions of themselves, which goes back to tell me your friends and I'll tell you your future. And
Hmm.
people don't want
Love
to
that.
talk about that. And I've been just, I'm not a big TV watcher. So sometimes I'll scroll on TikTok or whatever, but my algorithms usually pull up motivational speakers, people that are driven, and it was the same type of stuff that I'm seeing. And I'm like, that's what I enjoy. But a lot of people don't enjoy that. Does that make me better? No, I'm just different. And maybe we're just not a fit. And that's okay. I just want you to know that that definition of insanity will keep happening if you don't shift.
Yeah. Yeah. And so here you are and you went viral, and then that brings a few different opportunities. I don't I mean, you had already had, you're already a beauty stylist, and you're already influencing people's lives. So this just kind of brought you to another platform of reaching more people. But you you did mention that you have more men on your Instagram at this point than women, and that not wasn't necessarily the goal, but I think that can change.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
still about helping people. And so I tried to keep it, what was something that could help everybody, and that
Yeah.
was going back to like healing your childhood traumas or things that you have gone through that you had left stagnant. And we all know what, if you don't have movement, things atrophy, they go bad, they,
Yeah.
all those type of things. Now there are definitely some interesting comments that you get when
Mhm.
you are a female with mostly male followers,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I try to, skim through over that and get to the some of the core things, because even with doing some of the live videos, people will then, thank you so much would be their comment later on. And
Hmm.
just to clarify things, because when you're talking about going through divorce or an affair and stuff like that, people want to know, well, what happened, who did it, this and that. And so those were, I did a couple stories just to give an overview. This isn't an attack on anybody else. This is my story and
Yep.
my journey.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, I was getting so many comments about people struggling through something similar. I'm like, okay, how can I encourage them?
Yeah.
And they're telling me it from a male perspective. But I still came back to the same thing of healing your childhood traumas. And you can't change somebody, but you surely can pray for them, and you
Yeah.
surely can be an example. But you got to heal yourself.
Yeah.
And,
And I think we're all kind of going through that healing process in our own
absolutely. And you
way.
always will.
And and like you said about fitness, I think in anything, I don't think anything's linear, and we're always going to have ebbs and flows.
Hmm.
Even with the consistency, my motto is consistency over intensity in everything that I do. And that stemmed from me in my fitness journey back to where I am today. But it's really just all over for life, everything, consistency over intensity in every little thing. And I laugh at myself because I've even applied it to, one of my big things. And Amy is like the organizer extraordinaire. You guys, she like gets off on this stuff, and I'm like, oh, like I hate organizing, but it makes me feel so much better because when
Hmm.
my room and my house is just chaos, my brain is even more chaos. and
Yep.
I'm like the computer with all the tabs open, and like I just need to like shut some of them down. And sometimes when I clean and organize, a lot of those things do go down. But but I think about it now and I just kind of like laugh at myself, like I will clean my toilet almost every day now because I'm like, okay, I just have to get in this habit of consistency over intensity and like not think I have to clean my whole bathroom all one day a week because it was like making me stressed out and kind of like you and I talked about before we jumped on here, it made me paralyzed. Like I'm like, I
Yep.
just don't want to clean my house because it's so overwhelming right now. Yeah, it's just a bathroom. To some people, they're like, oh my gosh, Pam, serious? But for me, I'm like, I have all of these other things that I do daily. And I'm like, one more big project that's going to take me 30 minutes. And it sounds silly, but if I just clean my toilet almost every day, it takes me like 2 seconds.
Oh yeah.
And
Well,
it's just a
even
habit.
teaching your kids, because watching my girls, they have such different personalities, and my
Mhm.
oldest one kind of redid her bedroom, and the younger one's like, "Well, I want mine." I'm like, "Well, she just turned 10, so that was kind of her thing." So we flipped her bed on my youngest, but that enabled a space for her to play because I'm like, "I want you to be creative. I want you to build and construct." She's such a tinkerer, but
Yeah.
I'm like, "It can't be a hot mess in here."
Right.
Because I mean, it's proven if you're constantly walking into chaos, it's gonna
You
make
feel
you feel
chaos.
unsettled.
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, she has made such an effort to do it, but it is not a natural flow for her.
Sure.
And it's allowed me um, to have a lot of grace for her. I had read a book, it was I totally just lost the name of it, but it was one of those personality books, and it was talking about the whole family. They were melancholies, everything in order, order, order. And the one son was the sanguine who, like, they're the woohoo party. And so the mom had all the magazines lined up, and he came home one day and just like threw them off the table. Personality Plus, that's the book.
Okay.
And it made so much sense. And so at this time, when I'm learning about this, I'm living with my sister in Michigan.
Hmm.
She would be more the sanguine. I would have some of that melancholy. And we learned so much about each other. Now,
Yeah.
fast forward, she wants to be someone that's organized, but it's not a natural thing. So it can be exhausting at the end of the day when you're constantly feeling like you're going upstream. And so
Hmm.
I've tried to teach my girls about being organized without it over the top to become a compulsive imbalance. I
Yeah.
don't want that for them.
Yeah.
But one of the funny things I say is when you come into my house, I want it to look like I don't have children that live here, and not in a bad way, but everything
Yeah.
has its place.
Yeah. Yeah, and
And
that's something
so,
I've always admired about you, and I think that's something that Callie and I got really along great with because we're both the same way, and I'm just like, "Yeah, organization, nah, let's just go drink some coffee, I'm good." You know, and kinda you said that kind of summed up as everybody's so different. There's, health and wellness isn't linear. Your organization skills and your even, where you're at and your career isn't linear. And there's always going to be ups and downs. But then you also have to think, and I say this to people about fitness, just because I'm good at something that a lot of people want to be good at
mhm,
doesn't make me better because there's a lot of things that that I feel like I should be good at that I really suck at, and that's organizing my home and that's staying on top of those types of things. What I'm good at and what I love is fitness. And it's just like today I'm like told my husband, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. I barely ever take a day off. I have, I record workouts. So I'm like, I have to record. He's like, well, if it's not a necessity, then maybe just don't do it because you really don't feel that good today. And I'm like, it's always a necessity, and he just kind of laughed. But just because I'm good at that and it's outwardly it looks good doesn't mean that I don't suck at so many other things, so it's like, don't be down on yourself. And that's what I have to remind myself too when I look around at my home and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm such a horrible wife. I'm a horrible mom because like I don't have my stuff organized and together like Amy, and just for you as an example,
right.
where we can look at somebody else and then you might be like, oh my gosh, I haven't worked out in 3 days where, and so it's just
Yep.
it's like we have to know that just because we're good at one thing doesn't make us better. And we all suck at something that we should be good at.
Well, and that's the whole thing with comparison is the robber of joy.
Hmm.
And it's been such an eye opener being a parent because I see the differences. I mean, even when my kids were babies, I would open a cabinet to put dishes away. My oldest, she had the cabinet shut before I could get there. The youngest, she's the one that pulled the diapers off the shelf. So I'm like, this has been something that's part of who they are. Now, that doesn't mean we can't shift, and little tips, like even going back to laundry. Someone said, do a load of laundry every single day. And I thought, that is the craziest thing.
Yeah.
However, when I tried it, I got the concept because it's a small amount of laundry. I could totally handle that. I could get that put away in 5 minutes. But no, if I go 3 days and you have all these clothes from everybody's activities, and especially when it was COVID, it was like, come home, get your clothes off. I mean,
Right.
constant amount of laundry, it would be very overwhelming. And I
Sure.
would giggle sometimes when people would be like, well, I have like 2 loads of laundry sitting that need to be folded. I'm like, oh, I so get that. But then it goes back to the definition of insanity. Okay, well, I'll skip a couple days and it will be okay. Nope, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be overwhelming.
Right, right. Yep, same thing. So I wanted to talk about, kind of circle back to what we mentioned before. So you went viral and you have already been kind of helping people. Now you get to reach more people. And oftentimes I think, I have a few other influencers that I'm going to have on here as well. So this maybe fit part of that category. Um, when something clicks and something hits, like you said, the algorithm, and by the way, like I had actually followed the guy that you did that video from, and I know you follow him too. But he kind of joked and he was like, yeah, her video went viral and mine didn't even do that good. So so that just goes to show you, like,
Who
it
knows?
just yeah, people just loved yours. But that kind of brings a little more opportunity. Now you've already had some of these opportunities before because you've already been, like, again, in the beauty industry and, even the fitness space and kind of, influencing people. But you said you kind of have an event coming up where you get to help people with what was it, their style, like maybe what to wear, how to wear their hair, makeup, something of that sort. And you said, and you and I were just talking in a private conversation just about this kind of stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, that's our topic," because you said you are holding yourself back because you get a little bit overwhelmed. And I said, "Oh my gosh, that's our subject because I do the same thing." And kind of let's talk about that a little bit, how we can love to do something and we're so passionate about something. And I've held myself back in my own fitness career many times because I will so graciously and willingly and want to help people, and I want to help them in the gym, or I want to give them all of this information. But the second somebody's like, hey, I want to hire you and bring you in and talk about this, the thing that I've been talking about for 20 years, I'm like, what? You want me to talk about that? And, it's almost like there's this weird pressure and expectation and you freeze.
No,
So
exactly.
that's something that you had talked like how you're like, I'm frozen in this. And I'm thinking, Amy, like you literally I feel self-conscious when I'm like in our camera with you because of my hair. I'm like, what is she thinking of my hair? Like, is it okay? Because you have always given these things and you're like, I feel a little frozen to do this thing that I've always been doing for my entire life. Like, why is
Well,
that?
I don't, it's funny because I remember one time at Christmas, we were going Black Friday shopping, and my mom's like, said something about my outfit. And I'm like, well, I have to wear clothes just like everybody else. Why not just have fun? So
Sure.
that's, I guess, how I have always approached it.
Yeah, you
Um,
always look great, and you're always like, it's always the Amy's like the person, like, be the best dressed in the room. But it's just by default because you love it so much.
it's it's not it's not a hard thing for me, and I think that's it. Like, my sister is an incredible interior designer. It's
Yes.
not hard for her. And even as a kid, my mom was very visual. She could walk into a room, be like, this room is just not balanced.
Mhm,
When I say my DNA is full of color, like hot
mhm.
pink and turquoise. I have always been that way. I mean, I was doing my friend's hair in high school for prom. I had designed my own dress. I
Yeah.
just am very visual. So my sister approached me about doing a seminar this summer, and she's been asking me for 3 years.
Mhm.
And so, again, going through a really rough time, I was a hot mess. There's just no way I could do it. And now I'm just like, you know what? Someone will get something out of it.
Mhm.
And we've heard it all before, dressing for your body type. I mean, to me, I break it down like architecture. If you're big in one area, why would you draw attention to it? So balance it out with something else in another area. But it's almost like when someone gives you that recipe and you make it and it doesn't come out the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't, it's hard sometimes to explain it. I just like, if I see a pair of shoes, it's already in my head. Do, 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 like,
Yeah.
that would look so fun. I don't know why. It's just the partly of why I made up. But someone had said to me once a long, long time ago about dressing, and they're like, if you think about what's in nature, and I bring up a birds of paradise because to me the colors in it are not something you naturally put together, but it to me is one of the most beautiful tropical plants.
Hmm.
And that has always stuck with me, whether it's even in design for your house or design for your body or clothes. I have just always thought about that. And so dressing for your body type has been around. I'm not revolutionizing anything. It's just some people go into a store and they become paralyzed.
Yeah, yeah,
And
and
so,
so she wanted you to talk about this, but you said you were kind of holding yourself back. Not that you're not going to do it, but you in your mind, you're kind of like a little bit like freaking out, not freaking out, but like where maybe you can't explain that to each
well,
person.
it goes back, Pam, to the childhood traumas.
Mm,
I'm not chosen and I'm not enough. Why
mhm.
would someone want information from me?
Yeah.
But that self-talk are lies.
Mhm.
I do have a lot of information.
Mhm.
I've been in the beauty industry for a long time. I've done fashion shows. I've done hair and makeup for fashion shows. I've traveled all over. It's my perspective on what I think dressing for your body type is. Is it the end all be all? No, it's just a perspective. So you
Is
can take
anybody's the end all be all? Not really,
absolutely
right?
exactly.
Mhm.
And that's why the page, A Gal's Perspective, that's how it was born. It was my perspective on my take on things. Take
Mhm.
what you want from it. If it doesn't appeal to you, then pleasantly move on. I don't need any hate. You don't need any hate. We don't need any of that. But there are definitely people out there that do that.
Yeah.
Um, but
There's
I'm
been
just at a
many times that I've sent Amy pictures of my house and I'm like, "Hey, what can I put right here?" Or I've laid out like every picture of my house on the floor and she's like explaining to me over the phone, "Okay, so if this is your wall, let's place this here." And I'm like, "Okay, got it." And because I don't have that vision. So, so it's really, pretty cool that you can do that where, I could do the same thing with like workout. I'm like, "Okay, great. This is easy. I could train you in a
that.
telephone booth like and you get a good
Yep.
workout." It's not hard for me.
Well,
Um,
you can look at someone's body and
know
physique
what they
and
need. Yeah.
right, and
Yep.
that's the same thing as I just kind of do it with clothes. But I can, it's funny, I recently had a lady come in, she's in her 60s. You could tell she just felt sad. We had the
Mhm.
best conversation, and I took a picture of a lady before her. Now the lady before happened to have like really probably one of the best heads of hair I've ever worked on, so
Yeah.
it's incredible. And it reminded me of the scene in When Harry Met Sally, when Meg Ryan was faking the, I'm just gonna be blunt, faking
Yeah,
the
yeah.
orgasm in the shop.
Uh-huh.
And the lady is like, I want whatever she's having. Well, my new client says, I want you to take a picture of my hair at the end, like that lady. And I knew right there she didn't feel good about herself.
Yeah.
And so we went so way far over what it was just hair. And then she started talking her clothes and everything. And I said, well, to be honest, you're wearing the same color shirt that your face is, that your hair is. So I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no color. And
Yeah.
I said, next time you come in, I want to see you in a leopard print shirt. And she's like,
Yeah.
I love leopard. And I'm like, good. And that shouldn't be hard for you. Because to be honest, those colors of leopard would really appeal to her skin type
Yeah.
and her tone. I don't know why I've just always have
Yeah.
had that gift of color and proportion.
Yeah. So
Doesn't mean I
why
always stick to it myself.
so why do you think or what I guess we kind of know the why because we feel that expectation and we almost stall. And like I said, I've done the same thing myself. And I know kind of what I've done. to overcome that. But what would be something that you think that you could do to overcome maybe that fear of standing and making something you love into a job? Because sometimes people have a hard time doing that, and that's kind of like what we're talking about right now, where you were like, oh, I just feel like I'm holding myself back. So what's the thing that you're doing and that you're going to do when you're just finally, after 3 years, you're going to do it? So what are you doing to get over that hump?
Is trying to take captive my thoughts
Hmm.
when they're going into, you're not good enough, you don't know what you're talking about, you don't have a degree, blah blah blah. So what?
Yeah, just self-talk.
So, like, it is, and that's the thing I've learned in the journey. What's between your two ears is really going to determine. It's like your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, and it's like I have a lot of knowledge I've been told over the years. I'm like, so I'm just going to approach it. It
Yeah.
is what it is. I'm going to get up. I'm going to show up for myself. I have the support of one of my biggest cheerleaders, which is my sister.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm not going to think like I do. I think about the whole Nike thing. Just do it. I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
And I think goes back to our self talk. It's
Hmm.
terrible. We will motivate each other, but we won't look in the mirror and say, I'm a great mom. I'm
Hmm.
a great friend. I have a lot to offer.
Yeah.
It almost sounds crazy when we say that, but we can totally beat ourselves down and we don't think anything about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I just mentioned that. I just said that to Matt the other day because like like I told you today, like I just didn't feel that good. I was bloated. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I feel so bloated. I said, like, 20 years ago, I'd have been like, I'm fat. First of all, if you guys are saying that, stop. But
Yes.
if you are saying that, if you're saying I'm fat or whatever you're saying to yourself, you're not actually fat. You have fat, but you're not fat. So
Right.
let's just put that on the shelf. Okay. That's how I stopped that, because I'm actually not fat. Like I have a lot more to me, like skin and bones. And, like from the actual
Right.
physical standpoint, I have those things, but I'm not those things. Like I'm not gonna be like I'm skin. I don't know. I just like to say things like that. So I shelved it real fast. Took real fast I mean, like took me a long time to shelf that, but it did. But it's that self talk. And kind of, I'm like, wow, if I said that, I'm like, wow, that sounds really bad. And because I don't say those things anymore, and I did a whole podcast on this about, saying, picking one thing you like about yourself. And I did that for a whole year. And I literally looked at my collarbone for an entire year only because I didn't like anything else about myself. When I had my son, I didn't want to ever say those words out loud again. And it transformed my life by not saying negative things about myself, because I didn't want him to hear me say those, and I would never say those things to him. And so I didn't like anything about myself except for my collarbone. So I would only look at my collarbone for a year, and I would never let any of those negative thoughts come out. And it took that long, but I'm like, wow, just saying that for a second. I told Matt, I said, gosh, that sounds so bad. And people,
It
like you said,
is.
it's so normal and accepted for us to say, for us to hear people say, oh, I'm fat, I'm a loser, I'm this, I'm that. But if the second somebody says, wow, I look really good, my hair came out great today, but this color looks really good on me, we're like, oh, what's wrong with them? Are they conceited? Like, it's sad to me to see that, because I love to hear people say good things about themselves. However, when I was in that mindset, it wasn't exactly the same as it is today. For me to hear people say those things, I would think, well, do they think they're better than everybody else?
Oh
You
yeah.
know? And it's like, why? I mean, there's no answer there, but that's just kind of a question you ask yourself, like, why is it so normal for us to why is it so more accepted for us to hear people say bad things about themselves rather than saying something amazing? So weird.
One, I think too, even like with my girls being as young as they are, but my 10-year-old's been on a path of saying not nice things about herself, or she picks out things she really likes. And if someone else doesn't have it or wear their hair long or whatever, and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
but they may not like long hair, and that's okay. That's what makes everybody unique. And so I try to focus on that. We're strong and we want to be healthy.
Mhm.
And even the food thing, it's like tread lightly, but our slogan is, if you eat like crap, you feel like crap.
That's right.
And I'm
And
like,
I don't
it's
think there's anything
proven.
wrong with teaching that.
Absolutely. And then we talk about like when there's bad self talk, I'm like, those are lies from the pit of hell. And I'm
Yep.
like, stop. But I'm like, either someone's telling you that or you're telling yourself that.
Mhm.
So either one, don't believe it.
Yeah, and you're telling yourself that because at some point you're comparing yourself because somebody else
Yep.
thought that thing looked better. So it's like this weird balance. And I notice it. I don't notice it as much with my son, but I definitely notice it with my daughter a
Isn't
little
that
bit more.
crazy?
Yeah, where he just really doesn't care a whole lot. He might want something like a certain whatever, but if he doesn't get it or he doesn't wear it, like he doesn't really care so much what his friends think. But my daughter is more into that. Like she wants like she took a stuffed animal to school one day and somebody didn't like it and she was like crushed. And I'm like, well, babe, like not everybody's gonna like that because they said it was ugly or something like of that sort was her animal. And she liked it. And I'm like, well, that's okay. Like that wasn't very nice to say. So we won't say that to somebody else, but it doesn't matter if somebody else doesn't like it. It's just, it's really that, like you said, that little, like that fine line. You got to tread lightly on that kind of stuff.
Well, we would all be the same.
Hmm.
What's the
Yeah.
point in that? I mean, and I think for me, I want to teach the girls to be healthy. And the other day, I said, why don't we start running 2 days a week?
Hmm.
Just something easy.
Yeah.
And my oldest couldn't really finish the route. And
Hmm.
I'm like, I want you to be healthy and strong. And I'm like, she's in a horseback ride. I'm like, that's going to make you fit for your horse.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I said to be able to get through a full mile.
Hmm.
But when we were done, she kept going. And
Oh,
that
good for
she's
her.
got grit. And I
Hmm.
just love that in her.
Yep.
But my other one doesn't have as much grit. And that's a hard thing to
To teach.
help. Yes.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's the thing I want. Like, you can do hard things.
Yep.
You can do hard things. And
Yeah.
when you're going through trying to heal your childhood traumas, you can do hard things because there are going to be days where you are tired and it's exhausting and it's like, oh no, I just want to go back to where I was. You will never move the pendulum.
Hmm.
You will never shift if you don't continue to move forward. And even if you have to take a break, don't stop. Get
Yep.
up, show up, and keep
Yep.
moving.
That's right. So I won't keep you too much longer because we could go on forever and ever, you
Oh my
guys. I hope
goodness,
you
I
guys
know.
I hope you guys stuck around for the end of this conversation because there will be more. And Amy just recorded. I don't think you've released yet, but you did record a couple podcasts
Yes, and so
of your own.
I'm transitioning with some of that.
Mm-hmm.
So and then I was just talking to some friends yesterday about kind of what 2023 holds for a gal's perspective
Yeah.
and what I want to do with podcasts. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So just kind of, you guys can find her. She's hanging out mostly on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you guys can find her there and connect with her there. But I wanted to kind of end with this. So I think kind of what sums up this whole conversation is to be consistent.
Hmm.
Consistency over intensity. That's my motto, and it leads to everything: fitness and healing, and that we're not alone. And you guys, again, go follow her if you're not already, because she will make you feel not alone. And she's just having conversations in her car, on her stories, driving safely. Of course, she's not looking at the camera the whole time. Some people get so concerned. They're like, "Are you driving?" I'm like, "Yeah,
Well, it's
literally, it's fine. Like you're talking
it's
to a friend."
because I will watch back and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm not even touching the steering wheel because,
Yeah.
as you can tell, I use my hands a lot. So I'm like, okay, you got to keep at least one hand on the steering wheel.
So go find her, and also, consistency over intensity, but just do it. Like,
Yeah.
just literally do it. And I was always intimidated, and I guess I do have a little bit of a gift in myself that I know is from God to see above my circumstances. And I
Absolutely.
do realize that that is a gift. Um, and it's not always easy to keep doing things over and over when you're not seeing results, but you just have to keep doing, and you have to keep being consistent, and you have to just, like with my podcast or my YouTube, like just press record and just do
Hmm.
it. Like, don't, like Amy and I were talking about all the stuff. Like, I don't have a lot of equipment. Like, I'm just building as I'm going. And that's literally how I've done my whole life. I'm just building as I'm going. And I think that's kind of what I got from this conversation. That's really what you're doing too, is you're just kind of you're praying and you're moving and you're praying and you're moving and you're staying consistent. And over this last year or so, I would say that you have been the most consistent that I've seen you, with yourself above those thoughts.
And
You've come up and
yes.
down, but you, I think, have been the most consistent above it. And it's amazing to see. And I'm super, super excited to finally see some of the stuff we've talked about for a decade come
I
to life for
know.
you.
Well, I think part of that's having grace for yourself. And that's the
Mhm,
thing is, if I don't have all my ducks in a row, which I get the concept of saying that, but I actually like the one where when you see the duck on top of the water looking all put together, but underneath they're going like this because
mhm,
they're trying to sometimes figure it out, and it doesn't always work out the way that we think. But going back to like when you were saying about you and my sister may not be as organized and I might be, I have so many people in my life who do it, and you have inspired me
thanks.
to, you're welcome, to show up for yourself. And that
Mhm,
it's like I'll never have it all figured out, and when I do, that's probably when I stop growing.
yep,
I'm constantly shifting and maneuvering.
yeah,
And that's any person that I've listened to that's a motivational speaker. It's always about showing up for yourself and shifting when it needs to be shifted. And that's again goes back to the people that you have in your life. Like you have to have people in your life that will tell you the hard truth.
mhm, yep.
And
And if you've noticed, and we'll end on this, but if you guys have noticed, all of my guests that I have on my show so far have mostly been friends of mine. Some people I just meet on, I have had the absolute most amazing people that I have met through Instagram. Even, and I've pulled them on my show and I've become friends with them. And they all have that in common is that, and I think we just feed on each other is we're never done,
right.
and we're always just doing, and we're always growing, and we're trying to learn from each other. So just do it, stay consistent. What else would you want to add to that?
And come from a place of integrity because there's enough to go around for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. And be authentic and as
Yeah,
transparent as you can.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all the things. Go follow Amy. I don't know which side she's going to be on this camera. I think she's going to be on this side. And I love you guys so much. Bye.